Welcome to week 21 of this year's weekly vlogging through what's going on our homestead, and a lot of that includes what I'm doing in my playground, the garden. This week I tried to record a little bit each day on what I was doing in the garden, what crops were coming in, what work was necessary for this final week in May. But before we get to that, I wanted to share my thoughts with you on living joyfully and why it's a present and active choice, and it's based on my worldview and my faith in the Word of God. I believe the promise in Romans 8:28 that all things work together for good for those who love God. And I know that does not mean that all things that happen are good. There are times of frustration, fear, hurt and sadness, complications. But those are all things that Satan brings on us, intending for evil. And we can see throughout God's Word that every time Satan brings an intention of evil on God's children, he works it out for good in the end. But a lot of times, life on this planet doesn't go the way we want, but it can go the way that God knows is best. And choosing to have faith in that can really change your day-to-day outlook and experience. And you can choose to have a joyful heart in all experiences. Even though you may not feel joyful, you can choose to be joyful. There's a specific sentence that's shared throughout different books in the Spirit of Prophecy, and I wanted to read two of them to you today. They're in slightly different contexts. God has a purpose in sending trial to his children. He never leads them otherwise than they would choose to be led if they could see the end from the beginning and discern the glory of the purpose that they are fulfilling. All that he brings upon them in test and trial comes that they may be strong to do and to suffer for him. And stated again in the books Help in Daily Living and Ministry of Healing, too many, in planning for a brilliant future, make an utter failure. Let God plan for you. As a little child, trust to the guidance of him who will keep the feet of his saints. God never leads his children otherwise than they would choose to be led if they could see the end from the beginning and discern the glory of the purpose which they are fulfilling as co-workers with him. I choose to believe that I have given my life to Christ. He holds my life in his hands, and he knows how to work out everything that Satan brings intended for evil. He knows how to work them out for good, not just for me, but for others and for the glory of his name and his kingdom. Good morning. It's Sunday morning, just before 10 a.m. We have finished breakfast and kitchen cleanup, started laundry, made plans for the day, had worship, and now it's time to get out and get a bunch of work done. I know I've had a good restful Sabbath when I'm ready to have a busy day on Sunday. So the first thing I'm going to start with is potting up my pepper plants, because I will not be ready to transplant them for probably 10 days. I'm still waiting for the nighttime temperatures to get warm. Well, I just had an exciting showdown with a snake in the chicken hatchery, so that's been dispatched with, and I finished potting up peppers and one more tomato plant. And now I'm going to do a quick survey and see what's most important to get done in the garden today. As far as harvesting, I've got strawberries to harvest, chamomile, and I'm also going to go harvest whatever peas are ready for harvesting. I'm going to collect any more spinach that's worth getting and take out the rest that's gone to seed that I don't want to save seed for and get it to the chickens. I also have places where I put seedlings in that I need to keep moist. There will be zucchini and green beans in this bed. And I might check on some of the tomatoes I transplanted at the end of last week and water those again. While I collected the peas and spinach and collards, my helpers collected chamomile and strawberries. All right, I mowed. I'm not going to weed eat today. And I also fertilized my strawberry plants for the second time for spring and watered those in. Now to get the after lunch mess all cleaned up so that we can put up the food that we harvested earlier. And by the end of the day, I'm able to clean and cut up the strawberries and get them ready for freezing. I also shelled and prepared the peas for freezing. And then I decided to cut up some of the strawberries into smaller bits to be able to add to a fruit salad for breakfast the next day. Little Miss went out early Monday morning and collected enough of the early ripening mulberries to be able to add them to our fruit salad also. You may have noticed I've planted and had way more lettuce growing than we are able to eat, so I've been sharing it with visitors that come over and friends in the neighborhood. And this morning, before we head to town for several different visits and office stops, I went ahead and collected a bunch of lettuce heads to take with me to share as well. It's Tuesday morning, checking in on how my pepper plants took from their transplant 2 days ago. Other than cucumbers and some chamomile, everything else in here is peppers. That's all I have in the greenhouse now on May 23rd. Ended up being gone from the house on Monday for about 7 hours, so that means I'm going to have lots of good stuff for harvesting today. I'll probably wait until after breakfast to come out and do all that. But there'll be strawberries and peas for sure. Look at those onions. Texas early growner are coming along nicely. This long, cool spring that we're having is very favorable for the potatoes. They are so happy. All these potatoes here that have the trellis under them are still upright and gorgeous. Much more so than the ones that don't have the support. Lots of peas coming along. Aroma transplants are doing well. Calendula. Still more lettuce. Isn't that beautiful? Butter Crunch has the prettiest shape when it gets its full size. And that's a crisp mint lettuce. It's a Gentilina lettuce going to seed. Cucumbers. And I've started taking out some of the collards for dehydrating for us and for going to the chickens. And I'm going to take these Gentilinas to the chickens. I don't need more lettuce seed. One plant makes plenty of lettuce seed. And this is cause lettuce, I believe. And this is the lettuce coming up on the north side of the house. More lettuce for late spring and summer. After breakfast, I harvested all the peas and the strawberries that were ready, and I took care of getting those ready for freezing later on in the day. But I spent the whole afternoon preparing the tomato plants for lots of rain that's expected. I went ahead and put a little pile of wood chips underneath every tomato plant so they wouldn't have as much issues with splashback from the dirt. It's Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. We got back from horse grooming lessons a little bit ago, and I've picked peas, and my husband was taking care of weeding while I was gone, which is very much appreciated. And now I'm going to go through and pick whatever strawberries weren't picked for breakfast this morning. And I heard that we have some early blueberries that are ready for picking, so I'm going to check on those once I get the strawberries picked. Little Miss insisted she got all the right berries this morning for breakfast, but you know how kids are. Let's go check out the blueberry plants. The next project was removing all the spinach that had started bolting so that it could be some food for the chickens. So my joyful helper pulled the lawnmower and the lawnmower trailer over, and I was clipping up all the spinach and tossing it to her, and she was loading it in. And I choose to use the clippers and clip all these plants at the base, not because they're hard to get out, because it's very easy just to lift the plant out of the soil. But I don't want to take all the roots out with the plant. I'd rather leave them in there for the worms and the little bugs and stuff to enjoy eating. So I clip them out and clear the beds out that way, and the chickens get to enjoy the greens. It's Thursday afternoon, 1:45 p.m., and I just finished up all my office and desk work for the day, and I just had to come outside and spend some time in the sunshine. I'm going to clip all the runners off of the strawberry plants today. It's about 5 o'clock on Thursday evening, and it looks like we're going to be getting many days of rain starting on Saturday. So I'm trying to get some cleanup done tonight, so tomorrow I can do a pretty heavy harvest on the crops that need harvesting. And I've been going through, I did the broccoli yesterday, and today I'm doing the cauliflower, snapping off the dying leaves from the bottom just to clean the plants up a little. And look what I found. A cauliflower is growing. There's a bigger one over here. So pretty. I can't wait to eat that. Hello, Mr. Lizard. The sun has gone away trying to get warm on the last of the block. It's just after 1 p.m. on Friday afternoon. I finished the harvesting part of my garden work. I've made breakfast and lunch for Sabbath tomorrow for our road trip, so I made some potato, kale, and egg burritos to warm and take with us. I also have hung laundry and helped sort through winter and summer clothing for Little Miss. And now I'm going to work on these potatoes. These were the potatoes that were planted at the end of February. So yesterday or today are actually day 91. These were red Pontiacs. They have fallen over with different storms. The plants were very big. I've been covering little bits of potatoes that I see as they poke through the dirt. But with about 3 days of rain coming up, starting tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead and pull these, or at least check a few and see how big they are, see if they're worth pulling. I don't want them to get more exposed to the sun if the rain's going to be pretty bad for the next 3 days. So let's take a look and see what I get. I just used my hands to dig around and pull up this one plant in the bed here. I dug pretty deep. I could feel that I was touching some potatoes from other plants that were near it, so I left those there. And from this one plant, it looks like I got about 22 potatoes. From one whole potato that was planted in February. And all these potatoes that were planted were just shriveled up ones from the winter that I wanted to put in the ground and see if they would do anything. So I'm looking forward to harvesting the rest of this wall. Hopefully I'll be able to get it done before today is over. So we've taken about 10 to 15 plants out, say, maybe no more than 15. And here's what we've gotten so far. I'll take this inside and weigh it. Then we're going to take a lunch break and then clear the rest. Oh, this week I also added chocolate mint and chamomile to my front herb bed. The chamomile will flower for me next year. I started these little plants from seed. And enough of that enjoyment. Time to get back to the potato harvest. All those potatoes just from one plant, from one planted, shriveled up potato plant. All of wall bed 1 has been emptied of the potatoes that were planted at the end of February. If I remember correctly, I think it was 42 potatoes that I planted and around 39 of them sprouted. And I would estimate probably 30 of them, 25 to 30, grew into good big plants. Some were still a little small. They were planted very closely together, 12 inches on center. And it looks like it's about 87 pounds of potatoes if you take off the weight of the buckets. And if you ever harvested potatoes before, you know that means there's probably still a pound or two of potatoes in this bed somewhere that will pop up this fall. But 87 pounds of potato from plants or from potatoes that I didn't expect to get anything from, quite a blessing. So I have about 170 more potato plants to harvest in June.
And this pleasant and peaceful work week was brought to us by lovely weather in May. The weather will not be this way by mid to late June and at all for July and August. So I won't get this many hours of beautiful, pleasant working in the garden. But I enjoyed it. I was glad it came. And this coming week, I'm going to be plenty tired. And I look forward to the rain that's going to keep me inside working on indoor projects. I hope that you have the freedom and pleasure to set goals for yourself this week, whether big or small, and to start working towards them. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, remember to live joyfully.